Welcome back, everybody, to the Basement Binge. Where am I going? Oh my gosh, what a start. Okay, Margaret, welcome to the Basement Binge. We'll start always with our spoiler wall with Avengers Age of Ultron. That's what we watched this week. But anyway, before we jump in, I'm Harrison.
I'm Cade.
And I'm Kelton.
And spoiler wall this is just your recommendation. We get a minute to give a spoiler-free reaction to the film and then recommend it at the end. So let's start with that. You want to pull on a minute for us, Cade?
Yeah, I'm ready for you. Just should I pull it up for you?
I'm ready when I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
Okay, here's my minute. Wow. Okay, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Personal note: I had really always talked about this film really highly, and always felt like it was my personal mission to tell people how good this film was and how underrated it was. Probably did that too much. This film is good. It's enjoyable, but it's not that good. If you're looking for a superhero movie that's good and enjoyable, totally recommend it. But if you're looking for a superhero movie that's mind-blowing, blow your socks off, I recommend Winter Soldier or Dark Knight or one of those films. But it is enjoyable. It is good. It does have some things I picked up. There are some fun parts. The comedy's good. Ultron's a really, really fun villain. And especially if you're watching this for the first time, if you've never seen this before, I recommend watching it because it's a really, really good first movie to watch because of the villain of Ultron. But if you've seen it before, the rewatchability, I would say give it a few years in between rewatches. Because I had rewatched this recently. I'll just keep going super quick. I'd rewatched it very, very recently, but it had been a long time since I had rewatched it the last time. And it was because it was new and I had kind of forgotten it was really refreshing and it was fun and it was different. But this time, having rewatched it 3 months ago, it wasn't fun. It was fun, but it wasn't as fun. It ruined the film for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So would I recommend it? Situationally.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
All right, that brings me to my minute, right?
Yeah.
All right, my minute spoiler wall. So this movie, I feel like every Phase 2 movie we've watched is the same for me. It's been a while since I've seen this. The first scene, I was I don't remember any of this. So it made it very interesting for me, watch. It felt like I was almost watching it for the first time. But this movie, I think, does a really good job of just introducing good versus evil. And it introduces kind of new concepts that you don't really see in other movies. It is a little bit more hard to follow. There are certain plot twists and key points that I feel are definitely a lot more intricate or complex and stuff. So if you want to watch this casually, it's a little harder to follow. But I definitely think it's critical to the whole MCU universe, and it's a lot of fun to watch the first time. But watching it times after that, I feel kind of loses its joy or I don't know, goodness. But I would recommend this, even if it's been a while since you've watched this. But yeah, it's my spoiler wall.
I just gotta say, you said MC Universe.
Did I really?
I mean, it works. It's not incorrect.
The
It's
MC universe.
It's just what?
Yeah, wow. I guess I'm just way confused.
That's just the same Washington D. Columbia.
Or TTY later. Wow. Anyhow.
All right, good.
Okay, here's my minute. This movie, I have to kind of... I'm going to sit alone on an island here. This movie, I think, is a good one. I enjoyed it. I will say this, to put this movie in a phrase or a sentence, this movie gets you talking, if that makes sense. You watch the movie, and then I want to discuss it after the movie. And maybe that's just part of the point of where I enjoy the MCU or the MCU universe. And I want to just talk about it and compare things, but it leaves you with some questions. People can take it as confusing. I take it as I'm interested. I want to know a little bit more, so I want to watch it again and kind of slow it down and chat about it. But I will say this, as far as the rating goes, PG-13. It's pretty good. It stays with violence, but the violence isn't traumatizing, I'd say. There's some innuendos. When I first watched this movie, the first two, I'll finish real quick. The first two times I watched this movie, I didn't catch those. I didn't find them out until someone pointed them out. So there's some there, but other than that, it's pretty good for a family, I'd say. I'd say more adult, like not like small kids and stuff, because it's just so confusing. But yeah, that's my spoiler wall.
All right, so that's a spoiler. That's the basement binge spoiler wall. So I guess if you're in the mood for it, go watch it, and then come back and listen to our regular scheduled program, because we're clearly got a lot to say about it. But for those who are listening straight through, first off, thank you. Indulge us while we just have some brief announcements. We'll be back after this break.
Alrighty. Well, here we are. We're at, I can't remember what number of podcast or episode we're at right now. It's number 21st.
Are you serious?
Number 21st.
Like, really? Legitimately?
I think so, because I was looking at the different podcasts and like the episodes we have, and yeah, Captain America: The Winter Soldier was our 20th.
Here we go.
What?
I think so. Let me double check.
What? We gotta check on this. No way. We gotta like.
Stand by here.
How did we not like?
Official number.
How did we not like make that a big deal? We have 19 episodes.
Wait, oh, for real? Oh, because the spoiler walls.
Number 20.
This is it.
This is
Nice.
episode 20.
2-0. Double decade. This is a double decade podcast.
There we go.
Ooh, I like that.
Way cool. Guys, did you think we were going to get to 20? I mean, like, I know, like, we're not, like, making money for this, but
Genuinely?
it's cool to see this. Like,
Genuinely? Because I'm the type of person that constantly is stopping and starting projects, and then, like, life happens, and sometimes, like, as much as you want to continue a project and it means a lot to you, like, you can't continue to work on it. And I was expecting that to happen a lot sooner. Like, maybe it will still happen, and there'll come a point where, like, we may have to, like, take a break. Like, next week, then we're going to be late. Spoilers. We're going to be late next week because I have to work like crazy. But, like, I was expecting it to just, like, fall apart to the point where it was, like, we just got so behind that it just died and never revived. So we made it to 20.
Number
Yeah,
20.
dude.
That's a milestone because we all know that one milestone that we always make of like wanting to work out more or to have a sort of hobby, and you start it and then it just kind of just dies like a New Year's Eve resolution. And this is really good that we've made it this far, and I'm glad everybody is just staying with us. So thank you. Glad you didn't give up on us or got tired of us talking and stuck with it. So we do want to say that we've seen all you guys download our content has been fantastic. We continue to ask that you do. It's amazing to see that, and we need your help in just spreading the word and spreading the love and just expanding our community or expanding our circle, because we love the people's different points of view on this movie and on any kind of movie that we watch or recommendations or their input. So keep on chugging along. This has been fantastic, and we love this. We certainly do not want to end it, even though we mentioned that, it could end, but we don't. We want to keep pushing through this. This has been a fantastic journey and an awesome thing to do, wonderful habit, and we want to keep pushing that.
Yeah, so follow up to my saying how I thought it would crash and burn. I don't think it will anymore. Like, I thought that it would happen at like 10. Like, we just get so busy and then stay busy and it just die. But now I feel like we enjoy it so much and like are so consistent with it that it's not going to stop.
yeah.
Which I'm so grateful for, and it's so exciting.
Yeah, to be honest, like, there have been times when, so we try and do our podcast, like, on the same day every week, but sometimes we have, like, things going on, we change it, like, we'll go maybe 10 days between podcasts instead of, like, a week, and not gonna lie, it's, like, I feel, like, really weird when, like, it's been a long time we haven't done a podcast. Yeah, like, I actually genuinely look forward to this, and it's, like, become a part of my routine now. Like, guys, if you think, if we've done this, if this is our 20th episode,
So I
that means we've done this for, like, 20 weeks.
I think it's only like 16 weeks because the spoiler wall is like
Okay,
2 episodes
yeah.
technically. I was trying to check, but I don't have it pulled up here.
So
But like still 15,
Yeah.
16 weeks? That's a long time.
Like, that's consistency,
months.
guys.
I mean,
so it's
like-
like
Am I right about that? 3 months?
I mean, like looking at this,
a little more. I think.
going back to like our very first episode that I have recorded, August 1st is when we started.
August 1st when we started.
And we're at the end of November, guys.
That's a decently long time.
Yeah.
Good for us.
Heck yeah. Quick applause.
That slow clap.
Yeah, but seriously, I think this has like become a part of my routine. And when we like don't do it on the like the week thing, I just feel really weird. It's like, wow, it's like been a long time. It's like been too long since we watched a movie and we just talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely like really
Like those times where it's that 10-day stretch, I get this urge, I need to watch a movie and talk about it. But then I go to talk to Sam and she's like, okay.
Like you watch a movie
So
and it's just
what?
like, oh yeah, I liked it. the conversation ends there. You're like, well, what about the binge points? What? Did you what poison? What poison are you picking?
Or like I asked my wife, like, did she see cinematography in that? What? It's like because we have Disney Plus. I'll rewind the movie, and we're watching like a Goofy movie. Like, see the cinematography when they're in like the canyon on like they're sitting on the car, and it's like kind of like gloomy and like rusty. So it's like showing like kind of giving up and stuff. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that." Like, why do you look for that? Just watch the movie.
That is watching the movie.
That is watching the movie. So it's funny to kind of think about it and realize that this is a habit, and it feels good. Honestly, it's like an accomplishment being able to continue this, being this consistent.
Yeah. So thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening. Please keep doing that.
And have by the time you listen to this, it'll probably be like later, but like have a good Thanksgiving. Like,
Yeah, Thanksgiving's tomorrow for us. So everybody enjoying Thanksgiving
yeah,
and your holiday season.
Catch a couple touchdowns for me.
Turkey bowl. And if this is after Thanksgiving, then I hope you had a good one.
I don't know why I laughed at that, but
Yeah.
all right, cool. I think that goes into our 2 cents. So, actually, we got to do a rundown of our program. Harrison.
Oh yeah, we can't forget that. Very important. We start with our 2 cents. 2 minutes. We get a knee-jerk reaction. All spoilers are free reign now. Followed by Pick Your Poison, which is our personal ranking system, and our MCU rankings. Then binge points, which are the fun Easter eggs and details, least and likes, and lastly, fall in the messages and meanings, themes for our 6th grade book report, if you will.
I wonder if I get a good grade on these, to be honest.
Genuinely.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I'm gonna start us off with our 2 cents. Okay, let it rip. All right, Avengers: Age of Ultron, our something episode. I don't know what number it is, but this movie.
Did we just say it was the 20th episode?
I don't know. We're like jumping around, like 20th episode, but also like I don't know. Whatever.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, 2 cents. So I think this movie's really fun. Like it has like a lot of cool action in it. Like we're talking about the bad guy lifts up a city out of the earth and like turns it into a meteor. Like come on, how much cooler like can you get? That's a way cool plot. Like this is a one of a kind movie where you don't see stuff like this. I mean, there might be say like the good guy creates the villain or whatever, but I just think this is a one of a kind movie and it's totally awesome to watch. I will say I got super confused. Like the whole dynamic between Ultron and Vision, I'm kind of like, wait, what? So that's like kind of hard for me to process. I'm still trying to figure that out, and I'm sure we'll like talk into it more later. But I think this is a great movie in terms of like establishing the dynamic and the relationship between the Avengers, like continuing it from the first one, like the first Avengers. But kind of like weird side note, all of a sudden like Natasha and like the Hulk is like all of a sudden they're just like smoochy smooch and like so that's like a kind of out of the blue. But the rest of the movie I think I really enjoyed. The fighting is awesome. You kind of have like the similar, save the world. Like we got to protect the civilians, destroy the army, and defeat the bad guy. But it's still fun to watch. I totally enjoyed this. Like I said in the spoiler wall, if you weren't listening, this is the second time I've ever watched this movie, and it has been a while since it came out, so I didn't remember a whole lot. But so it was like watching it the first time. But yeah, this is a very fast-paced movie. You have to pay attention. You cannot miss a single scene because each one is super important to the whole movie, and it sets up a ton for later movies. So that's really cool to watch. Look for like binge points and stuff like that. But I like this movie. It was good.
All right, I'll start with my 2 cents. Okay, this movie has so many references to before and after and during and what's going to happen in the movie and foreshadowing and foreshadowing and foreshadowing. And if I haven't said that yet, foreshadowing. It's so overwhelming. And I've watched this movie all the way through, I think, from like beginning to end, I think once. And the other times I have, it's bits here, bits there. That in total, I have watched the movie a total of 3 times, including that, broken down part. But I've also watched scenes on YouTube, like the creation of Vision, the point where they all sit down, they talk about who can lift a hammer and how you're worthy and stuff. And also the breakdown of the relationship between Bruce Banner and Natasha, and the visions and all that stuff. And it's a lot to comprehend, but I kind of liked it I'm at this point where I've watched all the Infinity Saga and I've loved it, and I want to go back and kind of just like watch it through again and just really dive into it and find all the meanings and stuff, because people are saying that there's like, this is not cinema, it's just kind of superhero movies and it sucks. Like, for example, my mom boycotts these movies now because she just like can't stand anymore, and just like it feels rhetorical to her, which I strongly disagree with her with that. I love her, but no. But like, I want to talk about it. I want to find the meanings on all the references within this movie, because I think it's just this, it's like the middle of a spider web almost with this movie. That's the best way I can explain it, but it's got a storyline that like gets you hooked. And I think they wanted, with this movie, they tried to change gears and have a different kind of vibe to it, but also have the same one that we still love. But there's like there's a love story in this, like a solid love story that's like kind of more of a Hollywood kind of a feel. So maybe they're trying to draw in more of an audience, but I still like this movie. I still enjoy it. It's entertaining because it's complicated.
All right, my 2 cents. I'm last. The hardest part. Okay, I enjoyed this film. It's definitely entertaining, but it's just, it's not really just. It's not good to rewatch. I'm just gonna say that. Having watched it so recently, like Kelton said in his, like, so much of the enjoyment out of this is like the kind of intense and like almost powerful villain that Ultron is, both in his power, but also like that he takes up a city into the sky. And like, I remember watching this, like, oh my gosh, like, people are gonna die. Like, there's no way that they can win. Like, something bad is gonna happen. Like, they're either gonna die, the people on the city that's flying are gonna have to die, or the people down below are gonna. And like, but then knowing that they win, and it's just kind of like nothing really happens. It's just like, oh, okay, it like loses the grasp it had on me, having rewatched it. And anyway, the romance, I'll get into that later. Not a fan whatsoever. I wish there was more of Ultron. James Spader did so good of Ultron. He's probably the best part of this movie, Ultron. He's just so fun. James Spader killed it. But it was, I agree with Kate, it's a really good like spiderweb and like a huge part of the MCU. It's so crucial to everything else that happens later with in the Infinity Saga, meaning like the Infinity Stones, but also just like new characters and character arcs and how they branch off. It's a good team-up movie, and team-up movies are kind of unique, and especially at this point in Hollywood of having it made. And like, there's a lot of pressures that were on Josh Whedon to make it, and I can see that now, having rewatched it so many times. But it's fun. It's fun to enjoy. It's fun to like enjoy the build-up that it had for the future MCU movies and what was happening there, and like Wakanda and references to that, and Vision. Paul Bettany's amazing. So it's definitely fun to enjoy. If you love the MCU, it's really, really enjoyable. It really is fast-paced, and like, I would like to be able to go back to a specific moment and watch that scene for the purpose of understanding that scene, instead of trying to watch the whole movie for the understanding of the whole movie. You know what I mean? Like, some of those scenes were just like so intense, especially in the dialogue, that I just want to go back and rewatch the scene for the purpose of understanding the scene, because trying to watch the whole movie, it like, you lose, you know, I'm rambling, but overall I enjoyed it. So that was my 2.5 minutes. But we'll move on to Pick Your Poison and ranking. I'll go first. So Pick Your Poison. This is our rating scale. The very worst we can choose is never, ever watch again. Then above that, slightly above that, is streaming, where, you know, if it was on a streaming service that you already have, you just spend your time watching it if you were looking for something. The step above that is where you would go out and pay money to rent it on Redbox or Vudu, wherever. And then top of the list is buy. Because you love it, you're going to spend even more money on it, and you're going to rewatch it multiple times. Would I buy this movie? Yeah, I would buy it. It being a part of the MCU really kind of affects my ranking of it being a buy. So if I were to take it completely out of the MCU and say this was just like a sequel, you know, because clearly it can't be a standalone film, but if it was just a sequel, I would rent it. Like, I'd be willing to spend money on it and watch it if I was in the mood, but it'd be years between time of watching it.
Like a point where, like, I don't remember what this happens in this movie. So
yeah. Just like, oh man, I remember a few years ago I enjoyed Age of Ultron. I don't remember it too much. I'm gonna watch it, you know. And I'd be willing to spend money on it, and I'd enjoy my money, and it'd be worthwhile. But I have already bought it because it's part of the MCU, and that I'm a collector. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I would slightly in between buy and rent is where I would put it.
Okay. I say I would buy this, but I'll buy this for my own pleasure. Because it's a movie that I want to, like, break down and, like, have, like, a notebook out and just, like, or I like, have my phone out and kind of just, like, look through what people say and, like, try to find it and, like, go through meanings of what each scene is. Because it's so complex. It's got all these back doors and explanations. Like I mentioned, I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I'd buy it for my own pleasure just for that reason, because I want to just figure out what they're trying to say in this movie. Because part of me thinks that this movie was an Avengers movie, but behind the scenes it was kind of a Black Widow, Hulk, Hawkeye movie, like those three guys and Vision, because at this point all the major characters have had a movie, right? But these guys don't. They've been introduced in, what was it, Iron Man 2 and...
Well, I would add the Hulk to that as well.
Yeah, Hulk. Because he was introduced in, reintroduced in the Avengers movie, and they were given a scene to him to explain his backstory. But this movie kind of went along more that they're superheroes. They're kind of doing their quote unquote job, and they're trying to live a normal life, but they can't really. And so I'll get more into that later. But that's what I got from that. And so I want to dive into that more, because I don't feel like I get enough of Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Hulk. So that's maybe the reason why I would want to buy it for myself. Okay. As far as rankings go, I had this right in the middle. I had this at 11. No, that's Kelton's. Yeah, I had this at number 11. Right in the middle. I think that's where it's going to stay, because it's all the other movies that we're continuing to watch as we go further into this have been my personal favorites. And that's what I feel like, as far as you want to say, like, if you want to compare it to other movies in the MCU, it sits in the middle, because it doesn't suck like Thor: Dark World. or I should correct myself, take that back. Like the Incredible Hulk doesn't suck that much, but it's a point where it's a solid movie, but it kind of lost its swing, But yeah, that's what I gotta say.
All right, my pick, my poison. I would say this is a movie where I only watch, like, streaming. Like, if I'm bored, I got nothing else to do, and it comes up, I'd, like, stream it. Just because I totally agree with what you said, Harrison. Like, this is a movie where you'd watch it, like, a long time in between it. Because if I were to watch this again right now, I'd just be like, oh. Like, I wouldn't get a whole lot out of it. So, yeah, like, I was looking forward to this movie before we started, because it had been a while, and I enjoyed it watching it. But I know it's just the kind of movie where you can't, like, sit down and just, like, rewatch it again, like, super quick. So, yeah, and I don't know if I'd spend money to watch this again, like, I know the general idea of what happens in the movie. So, yeah, but in my rankings, I had this one, I believe it at 10.
Let's look here for you. We got you.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You had it at 10.
Yeah, I had it at 10. I think that's going to drop, to be honest, because I remember, just watching some of the movies we have, I remember thinking, like, wow, this is better than I remembered. And this one wasn't. It didn't live up to my own expectation of how good it was based on my memory, so I think that might drop, but I don't know. Yeah, but in terms of, like, phases, in phase 2, I had this ranked at number 4 of 6. So that might change. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah.
Oh, I forgot to review my ranking. I'm kind of embarrassed. I put this at number 7. Whoa. This film was in my top 10. Wow. I remember ranking this, and it was like right after I had rewatched this in a long time.
When's the first time? So you watched this, like, last week?
No. I watched it for the first time, like, because I didn't see it in theaters. I think it was like sometime in 2017. And then, like, earlier this year, I rewatched it. I was like, I remember I really enjoyed that. But, like, 2017, I just come home from serving a mission, and, like, I had only seen a few of the MCU movies, and I was like, people said that they didn't like Age of Ultron. I wonder why. So, like, I went and specifically watched it for that, but I was, like, so out of the loop with everything else that it didn't make any sense. I was just like, that was weird. And then later rewatched the other MCU movies and, like, got back in the loop, and then I was like, I'm going to go rewatch Age of Ultron. And that was this year that I watched it a few months ago. And so, like, for that reason, I really enjoyed it. And then like knowing that people generally didn't like it, I wanted to root for it as an underdog and be one of those people that like likes it despite everybody else disliking it. I'm generally like that when it comes to movies. Like, side note, I generally like to put the prequels to Star Wars, all 3 of them, in my top 10, just because like it blows people's mind. They get really irritated, and then like I enjoy liking things that people don't like, if that makes sense. Well, also like I also enjoy enjoying things that are good. But anyway, so yeah, making this list, I remember like having that perception of like Age of Ultron deserves better, like, and like putting it really high. Having rewatched it, man, that's like crashing, burning low. Like not at the bottom of the list, but it's gonna go pretty low.
It's gonna drop.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the movies below it and just like, really? Okay, but scrolling down to scrolling down to phase 2. Oh my gosh, this is number 2. Are you kidding me? This is like, oh.
Now this your list, looking at here, this is Guardians of the Galaxy is at number 5, and that's
just because I hadn't watched it, so it was defaulted to the bottom because I had never seen it.
if you guys haven't heard that from our past episodes. So a lot of things will change up with Harrison's list, but I remember past episodes you were so like such an advocate for Age of Ultron, like it's one of my top favorites. I mean, that's what you say all the time, but like you were big on that one. So yeah, I get what you're coming from there.
I think it's that it doesn't have good rewatchability for me, and that's a huge part of my ranking for this list. Like, it's a good film. I really enjoyed it. I will watch it again. I know that. But it doesn't have great rewatchability. Like, for example, Tron. I've rave about the movie. I watch that movie every year. Never get sick of it. I love it every time. It's like the best day of my life when it comes to watch Tron. Age of Ultron, maybe 5 years from now I'll rewatch it. Like, you can rewatch it. It just doesn't hold that rewatchability that some movies do for me. And that's a huge part of enjoying movies for me is rewatchability. So,
Kind of like I Am Legend. I don't know if anybody's watched that, but it's got Will Smith in it. The first time watching it is like mind blowing. The second time it's like you know everything's coming.
Yo, I completely disagree. I love I Am Legend.
Okay.
I could watch that like once a week. So shut your mouth. Sorry.
this movie had great rewatchability until I rewatched it. And now it doesn't, so it's fallen to the bottom of my list, most likely. Okay. Near the bottom. Anyway, that was really long.
All right, this is our segment, the binge points, the references, the callbacks, the throwbacks, the feature backs, whatever you want to call it. This is where we talk about the little hidden gems. There is a ton of stuff.
The whole purpose of this movie.
Yeah, like I thought Guardians of the Galaxy had tons of references. And I say this could argue references to Ralph Breaks the Internet. The amount. But just solely for the MCU, just inside the bubble of the MCU, just references all of that stuff. Not like things
Yeah, there's
outside.
not huge references like outside of the MC universe. But like in that little bubble, it's just like so much foreshadowing and references. I just want to point out one reference that is just so cool for the movie. Especially after Avengers or Avengers Endgame, when it does like the title reveal, I almost call it the title crawl, but like the title card, that's what it's called, you know, opening scene, that boom, like Avengers or Avengers Endgame, and like the sound and the style of it is so like victorious and like just awesome. This one, like the Avengers, it's almost like they're being defeated by Ultron, and like it turns from Avengers to Age of Ultron, and it just like is a turn to truly like his reign and his power, which is just cool. It fits the movie really well.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the reference to all the Infinity Stones. Like, I feel like this is the movie where that really starts to like get traction, because in the other ones, you know, you see references to other Infinity Stones, but this is one where they explicitly state that, like, right at the end, Thor's talking to Tony and Captain America, and he's like, you know, this is someone else's game, and like we're just pawns in it right now, and like because he's like, oh, that's like 4 Infinity Stones in the last couple years, so like stuff is happening outside like our field of view, and someone's controlling stuff, so like that's huge foreshadowing to later movies. So
Triple
Yahtzee, baby.
That was so awesome.
Yeah, that's huge foreshadowing. But even Kate and I were saying how like, and then I'll let him point out the specific moments, but just like the individual moments, whether it's the dreams or other moments in the film, and like the foreshadowing to their character arcs and their stories later in the MCU, it's just like man, they really had this planned out. And like I will say this, I think this is a good section for these references. So Josh Whedon, the director of both Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, apparently, I don't read too much into it because it just makes me sad. Because apparently the restrictions, for lack of a better word, like the parameters he had to work in with both like what the movie could do, but also setting up the future of the MCU and like staying within the limits of the story that the MCU wanted to tell was like so intense for him that it made him quit working for the MCU, which is sad. Like so bad that he like it was like horrible for him. He talks about how it was just awful. I mean, good for him. He made 2 really good films, and like especially in this film, he did a phenomenal job at balancing all those things. Like you got to introduce Vision, you got to have all these story arcs for Black Widow and the Hulk, and like set up Thanos and the Infinity Stones, and introduce Wanda and Pietro, and then kill Pietro, and then like a story for Hawkeye, and then like you have to balance all this stuff. And like that's a lot of work. And it's just kind of like sad that he was under so much pressure, but you can tell that it was there because it was executed well.
So I'm looking at these references here because I can't really point out the specific ones, but this was a huge one. I didn't realize this, but each nightmare that each Avengers has represents an Infinity Stone.
What?
Whoa.
Number 1, in Tony Stark's vision, it represents space. In the introduction, he like the color scheme is a blue tint, represents the space stone.
Wait. I want to guess these. Can I try and guess them? Because I haven't read this article. So let's guess. So let's Tony Stark's dream. Space Stone. It's in space, and it's showing a vision of the power of the Space Stone of like moving between worlds. And it's what am I saying? And it's blue, very blue tinted.
Yeah, cinematography is blue. Captain Rogers.
Steve Rogers. His was it yellow or was it red? I'm trying to remember. Hold on, let me remember. So his is either the Mind Stone. I'm gonna say his is the Mind Stone. Am I right? Am I going in the right direction, or is it the Power Stone?
Wrong. It's the Reality Stone, actually.
Oh, I was thinking Reality Stone, but I said Power Stone. I apologize. Yeah, Reality Stone. That makes sense because like he questions his ability to have a reality outside of war.
It's true. And it talks about how he's a soldier out of time, and that it's a different alternate reality, as if he didn't get trapped in the ice, and he gets his dance with Peggy Carter. That's the different reality. Okay.
And then Thor's, his must be the Mind Stone. Is it?
No, it's the Soul Stone.
What?
You're 1 for 3, dude.
Okay.
The easy one that he told us.
Thor's nightmare is illuminated with orange colors, which represents the Soul Stone. After watching Infinity War, it's clear the Soul Stone is associated with death. Thus, Thor is shown the prophecy that sets up Ragnarok. Heimdall blames Thor for causing the destruction of Asgard and its people. Hence, he keeps it's like death, like you'll kill us all because you're Odin's son and stuff like that. That's what that one is. Okay. Hulk.
Oh, let me remember. Oh, his has to be the Mind Stone. Yeah. It was the only one. Because, like, his Mind Stone is, like, he's seeing something in his mind that's manipulating him and making him Hulk, rage, and just, like, the negative effects that has on him and his perception of how people see him. And it's actually really sad.
Okay, Black Widow.
Oh, what is hers? Oh, it's the room. Hers.
The red room.
Is it the Power Stone?
It's the Time Stone.
How is that the Time Stone? I was like really thinking about it. I was like, it wasn't green at all. Oh, actually, it was kind of green.
It's kind of it's a very fainted green tint.
How's that the Time Stone? What does that have to do
What
with
does it
time?
say? What does it say?
Her nightmare is a flashback to her Soviet training and reveals a lot about her tortured backstory. Therefore, we're shown a glimpse of her past, which is an attribute of the Time Stone. The rumors heavily implying that Black Widow's prequel is the production for Phase 4, so maybe the nightmare is foreshadowing the events of that movie. We'll have to wait and see, but it's talking about how
Just
I mentioned flashback to her past, but also they mentioned that like the grand ceremony where she is like she's now sterile, she can't have any kids, is she's taken out of the world, is what I remember based on my own words. So like she's out of time, sort of say, but it's kind of like a flashback to her past. Okay.
That's actually
Last Infinity
really
Stone
intense.
is Scarlet Witch. When she touches Ultron's like body like his
Oh, it
future
is
body.
It's the Power Stone. I got it.
Correct. That's the Power Stone.
Oh, probably just because of like the power of the Power Stone to destroy a world.
Yeah, because it foreshadows what she sees in Ultron: destruction and a glimpse of Vision, considered to be the most powerful Avenger. He kills Ultron Prime, picks up Thor's hammer, and has the Mind Stone in his head, literally. So, and it's a purplish tint.
Wow, that is. See, like, look at these. I just like look at the parameters that Josh Whedon like had to establish this stuff, and like this is not accidental. This isn't just somebody writing a clever article. Like this is clearly intentional and planned out, and that's intense. I just really respect Josh Whedon for the work that went into building up on like the way it builds up for Wakanda and Claw and who he is without ruining anything about Black Panther. But also, if you know the story of Wakanda and Black Panther, you're like, oh, and you can like hear the Wakanda music playing. Hey, Bombay!
Wakanda forever! And he's chills every time. But there's the common one where Tony Stark gets on his little soapbox and he says, "Up there, that's the end game." That's that's a reference toward the very end. And also the point where Captain America says, "You could have saved us. You could have like." Tried harder, which that's a reference toward Infinity War foreshadowing of Infinity War that he didn't try as hard, and foreshadowing of Endgame that he gave his all and they can finally rest.
Wow,
that's way cool.
That's just and from what this article is saying, that's just the major references.
Then you have all the references that like Vision is and who he is and how he comes about, and like, man. I don't know if I want to talk about this now or later. I'll talk about it now. When Vision, like, he first comes to life, and then he, like, goes to attack Thor, and then he just, like, flies against the window, and he just, like, sits there and, like, thinks for a moment. First off, Paul Bettany, perfect for the role. I don't know if it was a plan all along for him to be Jarvis and then become Vision, but he deserves it. He's perfect for it. Bring him back. But, yeah, just, like, that whole scene was so interesting, and, like, seeing the way that he's like Ultron but not Ultron. This isn't even a binge point. What am I talking about? I don't know.
Yeah. But other binge points we have? Or are we ready to move on?
Oh, here's the quote from Black Widow's Vision. "The ceremony is necessary for you to take your place in the world." Nat replies, "I have no place in the world." Her instructor responds, "Exactly." So it's so it shows her past and shows that her future is like there's nothing there.
Okay.
So that's just kind of the big ones. One other one I want to point out was in Tony's Vision. You see this Captain Steve Rogers. His shield is split in half. That's a reference toward the Civil War.
No, not even that. It's split. This is a huge Endgame spoiler for Endgame. But we're just going to talk about it. If you haven't seen that movie, sorry, it's about to be spoiled. That shield is broken in the exact same way it's broken by Thanos. Like the same shape. It's the exact same break, which is so cool. Then there's like the Easter egg of the bow and arrow with the target in Hawkeye's barn, which is the same one in Endgame. There's the Easter egg of like Nick Fury. Okay, pay attention. Everyone go watch this scene where Nick Fury is talking to the Avengers at Hawkeye's barn. And he says, you guys had you had tech everywhere, you were whatever. Says something about how they were so great and had eyes and ears everywhere. And he says, and now we're here back on Earth. Nick Fury has never been to space before Endgame / Spider-Man Far From Home.
Nick Fury?
Yeah, he's never been in space. Name a movie where he was in space that happened before Age of Ultron.
Captain Marvel.
Did he go to space?
Yeah, there was that thing up above the Earth.
Never went
Was
in
he
space.
there? He got on the way up there. He got scratched in the eye by the cat.
Oh, well, that was like the satellite, the hidden satellite. But I don't know if you
maybe
count
that
that as like space.
Okay, well that's gonna ruin what I'm about to say.
That's in the human parameters of like what space is. So maybe I could take that back.
I don't know, but you just listen to the whole conversation. I wish I would have wrote down the dialogue, but it just seems. And I was hoping. I remember when Endgame was about to come out, and I knew that time travel was going to be in it. I was like, that scene in Age of Ultron is going to be huge. Like that's a Nick Fury from the future. But then it wasn't. But just like I don't know what that is, but that scene's huge. But there's just like crazy small details. We already mentioned Wakanda. There's something else I was going to say, and I forgot. Oh, yeah, I was talking about this last time. So follow up to my complaint about in the Winter Soldier where I said I felt like the shield not much happened there. Like Shield ended, and then it just was back. And yep, it happened. Like at the beginning, they were hinting about how Maria Hill works for Tony Stark now, and then Shield isn't anything. Like it's the Avengers thing now. But then they come back with a helicarrier, and Pietro was like, "Is this what Shield is?" Like they got rid of it just to bring it back in a different version. Like, come on, add some weight to that. Let it be. But these aren't. I'm so lost.
So
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, and we can go on and on about it. I'd say you gotta look at it again and see all the hints and stuff. You gotta look at the movie again in order to catch everything and all those really big ones. Did you mention that the arrow target? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Okay, we'll leave it at that. We'll move forward to our next segment,
which is least and likes, everybody. This is when we talk about our favorite scene and pretty much our least favorite scene. So I'll start us off. We'll go with our dislikes, and then we'll wrap around with our favorites. So my least favorite scene, I don't know if it's a scene, but just like an idea in the movie is like the whole love story.
Ah, you stole mine.
Like, I think that's like what?
It's garbage.
Yeah, what? It's out of the blue. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, they kind of like each other. But then, like in later movies, it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
But then, okay, think about Avengers. Remember Black Widow's previous interaction with the Hulk? He almost killed her, and she had like PTSD. She was sitting there having an anxiety attack, and it's like, suddenly you're in love with him. Like, no big deal. Like, you almost killed me. But,
Yeah, it was just like
but like,
out
suddenly I
of
have
the
the ability to
blue,
calm you
just
down.
some weird
like,
dynamic, and then yeah, that was just weird. I did not like that one.
And I feel like so much of the story arc of Hulk and Black Widow can be accomplished without that.
I agree.
Like everything in this movie that relationship provides to their arc, which is really great. It's a pretty good arc. That relationship was not necessary for.
Yeah, it just felt like this weird like junior high school fling that's like not important whatsoever. And then like in the end, both kind of like wish it never happened. You're just like, okay, yeah, it's.
well, there was that one kiss to satisfy all those like cheesy people who like love stories and you
But
watch
it's-
Hallmark every day.
But it turns out that Natasha was just doing that to get him to the edge and push him off. So it's like, was it even?
Was
there,
he? Was
though?
that her goal? The whole entire movie?
Pretty
though?
much, dude? Like, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think that's no.
Well, not just for that, but like in that moment, I feel like she only smooched him to get him close, so she could push him off the freaking ledge, so he could turn into Hulk and then go cam.
Maybe that's why Hulk left. It was like
Oh, it was just like the.
she kind of stabbed him in the back. He's like, all right, bye, Felicia.
Yeah, so I second. That's also my least favorite. I'll do like a follow up one. It was going to be my honorable mention for least when when Ultron and also Vision come to life. What particularly when Vision comes to life? It's not that I dislike the scene. Like the scene's really cool, and the way the Avengers react is cool. But like some of the things he says is just like what? It just like goes over my head. It's just hard to follow. Like
Like his whole reference to like I am, like really. For those who don't get it, that's like a biblical reference to like Jesus Christ. So it was just.
Well, I don't think he was trying to get to that point. I think
Well,
it
that's-
was.
yeah,
It was more of like I am.
This
I am.
movie
Like,
actually
I
had
am
like a
me.
surpri-
It's kind of like more like a polite, like a general.
I don't know, cause like
this I will say this movie surprisingly like referenced God.
Yeah,
in the
like a
Bible
lot of
like
different-
Noah and.
and,
Noah
and then
and-
upon this foundation I'll build my or
Upon this
upon
rock,
this
Rock, I will build my
foundation.
church. I was like, it's just like what? But yeah, that whole scene with Vision, it was just hard to follow. Like it's good. That was when I was saying earlier that I wish I want to go back and focus on one scene for the purpose of understanding the scene. It's that one because I feel like there's really.
Where he cuts off Claw's arm.
No. That when Vision comes to life for the first time.
Okay.
Like there's just so much in it that and I'm trying to understand the whole movie that like I can't focus on what he's saying and then it just goes over my head. I got lost so quick and I was just like, okay, they're talking. He's gonna pick up the hammer, then they're gonna go fight Ultron. Like I'm just gonna kind of.
Yeah, he's like talking about like the dynamic between Ultron and him. I just don't get like
how Ultron's suffering and in pain.
yeah, and it's like how the freak do you know that? And it's like how come
Yeah, how does he know that?
how
How does he
come
know that Ultron's in pain?
Well, because he is Ultron technically, because it's like he is Ultron in Vision, but he's with the Mind Stone instead of.
yeah, I'm just
No,
confused because
with
it's
Jarvis.
like what makes Ultron Ultron and what makes like Vision. Like I don't get like the dynamic that like
was the Mind Stone. Vision is the Mind Stone in Jarvis, I think.
yeah, I just don't get like so how come Ultron like went bad? Like he just like and like went crazy or just like
Yeah, like immediately.
it was just super
Well,
weird.
the way Ultron was made, it's purely the Mind Stone. Yes. Ultron's made from the Mind Stone because they try to like.
It was Mind Stone with Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, and then AI and the ability to come to his own conclusions, and then he decided that the Avengers needed to go. Or like Vision is the Mind Stone, Dr. Chow or whatever her name is, Thor's magic lightning, Vibranium, Ultron, and Jarvis.
So was it the lightning that made the
I
difference?
just don't get like what it. Yeah, I know like everyone who like made them and like what their components are. I just don't get like what brings them to that school of thought. Like why do they think that they like what they do? Like it was just. And
maybe,
it kind of talks about it, but I just thought it was like super
just hard to follow.
complicated. And
Maybe it was a
hard to
point
follow.
where it was like they're trying to make. So they made Ultron. They screwed up. He's like this hostile guy. So they said, let's do Ultron again, but take out the hostile crazy guy. So it kind of made him more human, of more compassionate.
Yeah, but
somehow.
Vision wasn't like, oh, I'm a good guy. He's still just like on the fence, just like I just don't get that. Like, just like all of a sudden you create a conscience and like they're already on like a side and like they already have like their like beliefs.
But then like Vision isn't on a side. Like he's still discovering it at the same time. It's just like deep that it's just hard to follow.
Yeah, and it's not like explicitly stating like the reasons or the answers to them, so you're just kind of left to like, okay, I think this, like kind of like what we're doing now. So
Like there's
I don't
always
know,
that.
my head hurts, so I'm just not gonna.
There's always like in every movie that has an artificial intelligence, they always say that humans are destroying themselves, therefore they need to be put in place or destroyed. One of those two. And because Ultron says they're doomed at the very end, and Vision's like, yes, but that's why they're beautiful.
Like what? Like how does it go from like you are programmed. You are a program to like your purpose is to protect the human race. Like yes, you have the ability to think and come to your own conclusions. But like what? Like how do you go from protect them to kill them all? Like Thanos. Like maybe going to the point of Thanos. Like that's I don't know. AI is confusing.
Yeah, I just
Maybe
don't,
that's why.
I'm just tired of that narrative. I think so. That was just like a turn.
I feel like they try. Maybe that's why I don't like it. It's a narrative that like 2001 or Tron or iRobot kind
or
of
like War of the Worlds or Terminator, like.
And War of the Worlds, and then also
Not War of the Worlds. That one's just.
and then like the Matrix, kind of like the Matrix. And like I feel like those are good. And every single one of them, when they really get into the AI stuff, except for maybe like 2001, it gets weird. You know, so I feel like it's just such like undiscovered territory that it's like you can just do whatever you want, but you kind of have to follow these beats. And like I felt like they tried to do that, but then tried to not do it. It was just weird. Vision's cool, Ultron's cool. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think we got to move on to our favorites now.
Yeah, but I think we can all agree those were that was our least.
Yeah,
as
romance.
a group.
It was just confusing. So,
Yeah.
Favorite scene.
I have a clear winner. It is the scene with the hammer when everybody's pretending to pick it up. Or not pretending, when everybody's trying to pick it up. Well, first off, it's just fun. Like, it's just fun to see the Avengers interacting that way. But also, like...
Because, like, fans have talked about that stuff. So
Well, but even, like, the foreshadowing and the incredible storytelling and directing that movie has in the character arcs of each individual is phenomenal. Okay, just look at this. So it starts with Hawkeye, who is unwilling to believe that it's magic. He thinks that there has to be some exclamation for it. Like he just doesn't believe it, and that's Hawkeye. That's where Hawkeye is the whole movie. The whole time he's just like struggling to believe it. Does that make sense? He just thinks that it's just something else. Okay, then next you go to Tony. What does he do? He tries to pull it up, doesn't work. Then he goes and involves technology with his suit. His technology doesn't work, so then he asks for his friend Rhodey. So Tony's arc, which is also the same in this movie, is I'll do it myself. If I can't do it, I'll do it with technology. If I can do it with technology, then I'll ask my friends with technology. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's totally Tony's arc in this movie, is it not? Then you have the Hulk, who just wants to have a good times with his friends, but then pretends, and it's ruined by the potential of hulking out and getting angry. Like, he goes to lift it up, and he makes it, like, Bruce makes a joke where he's like, ah! But that's his arc. He just wants to have a good time and have a life, but is constantly interrupted by the potential of hulking out. Then after him, who's after?
It's Steve Rogers.
Steve Rogers. Oh, yeah. So Steve Rogers, he picks it up, and he can move it, but he struggles, and the whole time, it's throughout the whole movie, he struggles to understand and believe that somebody who's just a soldier can be worthy of anything more than just being a soldier. They can be worthy of a life with a family.
There's like two sides of that.
Yeah, that he doesn't believe that he can be worthy to move on to have a family. That he's just a soldier, so he's not worthy. But also he's just a respectful guy, and just doesn't do it. But he can. He's worthy. I knew it. She just thinks that she's just so convinced that she's not worthy that she doesn't even try to like find out if she potentially is. Like she just convinced herself that she's.
There's
not.
another side towards Steve Rogers is that he can pick it up, and that to save Thor's ego, he doesn't pick it up.
Yeah, because he's a good guy. So you have all of that. Like, holy smokes, you lay out like all these characters' arcs, and in like one joke moment where all just having fun, and it is just a fun scene. At the same time, you also have to set up a moment where you can instantly make us all trust Vision.
Yeah.
And it just works out so good, and the payoff in the rest of the movie. Like, I just watched that movie, I'm like, wow. Everyone involved in this, from the writers to the director to the actors, everything, like everyone who went into making that scene work in the way it did, but like as on its own, but also the way it worked in interaction with the rest of the film was just impressive.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say ditto to that. Like, straight up favorite scene. Like, amen. Because I agree, that's like the greatest scene I think in the MCU in terms of like setting things up and explaining like arcs.
Yeah.
So well. So I just second that.
But there's other fun scenes like that, like the oneer at the beginning where they're all fighting, and then also at the end where it's like super slow mo and going in a circle. Like that's just fun, just like campy fun almost. Not campy, just like cheesy. That's what I'm.
My favorite, I'm gonna go out on an island here. It's the point where Ultron says, "I don't like you, Thor. You're bothering me." And he's kind of beating him up on his own. And the point where, like, Ultron says to Thor, it says something to Thor, and Thor responds, "And Thor Odinson, with my last dying breath, I'm running out of things to say. Are you ready?" And then Vision smacks him with the hammer, and Vision's like, "That is incredibly well balanced." And he's like, "Well, if it's heavy, you lose power in the swing." So I just love that because it's kind of like Thor's kind of like, yeah, he has to explain it for like the billionth time in his 100,000 year life. So it's just hilarious because I love Thor and just the banter of that. I love it.
That's awesome.
So should we move on lastly to Fall In? The meanings of this film? Yes. Messages, meanings, deeper thoughts about it.
To go quick, I didn't get any. Like, in terms of like a theme, like, I know it sounds bad, but like I didn't. I mean, you could go in maybe Natasha or whatever, but like I just.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I was thinking about it. I feel like these are big team up moments, and like even with the comics, I remember reading like big team up comics, and it's hard for them to be anything besides just a team up moment. And like this does it well, and like. Of course, there's themes that you could pull from each individual character arc and talk about that, but that's more of like a character study than it is a theme and a message for the movie as a whole. You know what I mean? So I also don't want to spend the time talking about each character because we're going to do that later in their movies when it's more prevalent, and this is just kind of like, but I will say this, it's impressive how, and again, back to Josh Whedon, like that's really hard that you have all these characters come together in Avengers and have little like things that change their arc, and then they go out and have their individual movies, how that arc progresses, and then they come back together and they have little things that changes their arc, and then that arc goes back and they change into something else. Like, wow, the level of content. That was the other thing, a binge point. The level of continuity in this film for everything that precedes it and follows it is just incredible. But yeah, I agree with you. There was a lot of character arcs and messages I could pull out from that arc, but the movie as a whole, it was just a team-up moment, which was fun. It was enjoyable.
I will say this. I forgot to mention, this scene made no sense to me. Thor and his little rock cave tub. Like, what was that? You went back to see his vision, then you kind of just saw Infinity Stones, and he's like lightning, and he moves on.
There's this YouTuber, I can't remember what video it was on, but he was talking about that moment, how later in the film he's like, so all the Avengers got to go to the character development farm, but not Thor. He had to go to the exposition pool. It's so true.
Yeah, it is. It's so weird. And I looked into that scene actually, and it says that scene was supposed to go more into depth and have him be possessed and have this weird monologue of having him been possessed by this weird spirit of some sort, and that's where he learns of the Infinity Stones, and it explains it more. But they cut it to the point of him having a spasm lightning in the water, and then he sees the Infinity Stones and then
guys,
moves forward.
it was probably just there just so we could see him shirtless again. So
No complaints.
But
also,
oh, go ahead.
this isn't a fallen. I'm just curious. Like, all right, so at the end of it, what's his name? Thanos walks up and grabs his gloves, and he's like, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Was he involved in the process of Ultron, or like?
Who? What?
I don't think we
Thanos,
ever
like-
have a definite answer to that.
Like Thanos. So he gets all irritated, and he's like, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Meaning, like, I'll go get the Infinity Stones himself. Because in Avengers, he failed to get the Infinity Stones. And then was he somehow was
and then like
somehow
Guardians of
was
the
his
Galaxy, he didn't get Infinity Stones.
Oh yeah. So maybe it was more of a response to Guardians of the Galaxy than it was to Avengers. Because I'm like, what? How could because a lot of Avengers you could say rivals around the Mind Stone, and somehow maybe Thanos is involved to get the Mind Stone, but that makes no sense. Like, suddenly he has powers to work with Ultron.
So, Cade, do you have a fall in? Because Harrison and I are kind of like, I think there's a fall in for each character, but in terms of like the overall movie, maybe just
to find one.
maybe just learning to work together as like a team. So,
Well, it's a point where I'm trying to think of something. There's a point where they're all fighting and they're having all these consequences show up, where it's Tony just has this big vision and no one's getting it, and they're fighting. So it's this. Everybody you can become a team, and you can go and you can fight for what's good, but you can't change people. Like, think about it. Thor was so against, like, he wanted to grab Tony Stark by the neck, and he's like, "You caused this, like, you are the bad guy." And Tony is like, "Well, like, let's talk about this." And then Bruce Banner's like, "No, we shouldn't talk about it." And I think then the message throughout it all is that you can become a team, you can work together for one solitary goal, but you can't change people, even though you're on the same side. And that is brought evidence toward this movie and foreshadowing towards Civil War, where they split, because there was so much arguing in this movie compared to Avengers. Because in Avengers, it was this massive like ego battle. But this one, it's like they have these opinions and these things that they care about, or they don't want to prevent something, or they want to be good and just do their job or have a normal life, and they can't. And so it's this point where they've come together, they've gained a relationship, but you can't change them because they're on their own path. You can't change someone's path just because you want something that's like, this seems a little bit impossible. So that's what I really got out of it, was just you can team up with somebody, you can be there for them, but you can't change them. Only they themselves can change themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the message of the team up movie is that you can team up.
You can team up, but you can't change people. Because you look at, so let's just focus on like Natasha, where she can't have her own life. She doesn't have a family. But then in this movie, like, it hits the home on that. She can't change that. But in Endgame, she finally has a family, and it's the Avengers, and she kills herself. She sacrifices herself for her family. So that's like, she did change. But and it's the point right now is that you can't just force somebody to do something. You have to have them make the decision themselves. You can't. So agency is, you have to be patient with that. I think maybe that's a message. That's what I got out of it.
Well, there we go. We're not left with that one. Thank you, Cade. So, also thank you everyone who listened to this. If you enjoyed this movie and you have more to say about it, if you have a message or other binge points, let us know. But other than that, that is the end of Age of Ultron. We will be back, not exactly next week. I mean, we're already behind. That's one thing. I apologize, everyone, for being behind. My work schedule is so crazy right now. This coming week, I'm working 12 hours every single day for 9 days in a row. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, I just don't have time for anything else. So the podcast is going to be a little delayed. But then we'll be back with Ant-Man to finish out MCU Phase 2. And then we're taking a break with the Star Wars sequel trilogy in preparation for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, which will be fun. So subscribe for that. And
talk to us on Twitter. We've tweeted a couple of things out here tonight as we've gone through this episode, and keep the conversation going. We love any kind of interaction with you guys. So look ahead, catch up, and we'll see you guys next time.
ciao, ciao.
What to do, baby?
Peace out, home dogs.